I'm fired up and I'm ready to go. I'm fired up and I'm ready to go. I'm fired up and I'm ready to go. This is the Billionaire Brown experience. Let's go.
Where would you like to go from here?
I want to go to those 9 forms of power, but as you were just talking and explaining those, one characteristic, one trait for the whole year, I'm thinking so extreme, like kind of in the sense of utopia, like what would the country be if it'd probably be hard to do, but it'd actually be easy to do. If they just said, hey, this year as a country, we're going to focus on drugs and alcohol. And we're going to pound that in we're going to pound that in. I wonder what the world would be like. I think it would be a little bit better, right?
Well, if they focused on courtesy from the Federal Department of Education for the entire year, it would change the United States. Because if you look at what's going on the news media, courtesy, it's discourtesy. Yeah. There's no courtesy there.
There's no self-respect.
And self-respect would focus on drugs and alcohol, but it would also focus on a number of other behaviors dealing with self-respect. One would be grooming. Dress, cleanliness. It will also focus on cussing. There is a character behavior survey on my website that's free. Okay, said that bad word again. Okay. When I collect...
Wait, but if we did do that as a nation and cussing was included, what would happen to the president when he says, grab her by the pussy?
Well, he would have... I think it would make him think a little more about using cuss words. Because if...
And not so many people would accept it either, right?
Oh, everybody knows that cussing is bad. I mean, the Bible tells you that the tongue is the most wicked part of your body. But when I do collect the data on the 96 behaviors associated with 16 sets of character traits, cussing is always the lowest measure. So on a scale of 1 to 5, with 1 being complete disagreement, or 5 being agreement on a negative behavior, there's a lot of agreement that cussing is a problem. So it's one of the lowest scores. It is the worst behavior out of 96. The one that's next lowest is about 6 behaviors focused on humility. Humility is something that's lost on our society. President Trump could certainly use a lesson on how to be humble. I don't know. Anyway.
All right, Dr. Cletus. Well, Dr. Cleet, take us over to the 9 forms of power. I have pen and pencil ready.
There are only 9 ways to get people to do things. Baby, only 9. There is a 10th, and it's God. People who pray to God believe that they will get control and they can influence what happens in life. I didn't put that in my book because it's too... I only put in 9. The other 9 ways to control what happens to people. Now, 5 of those ways are freeing forms of power. A freeing form of power is used to give control to people without giving it up. Here they are. Information. You agree information is power. We're doing it. We're doing it right now. We are giving people information, and they can look at it and they can say, wow, I never really thought about that. Yeah, I can do that. Number 2 is expertise. People demonstrate how to do something, and the people looking at it say, oh, I can do that. Yeah, I liked what he did. I can do that. So they are, again, free to choose. Then you come to the 3rd form, and it's called personality. Now, the original typology of power was written by French and Raven. You can put that down on your note there and look it up. They're all over the web. French and Raven wrote the original typology of power, and it was 5 forms of power. They called it referent power. I call it personality power. If people like you, all you got to do is ask them to do something, and they will, right?
Right.
Yeah, they're free. You just have to ask them. If they don't like you and you ask them, they'll say, well, screw you. I don't have to do anything for you. I don't like you. So in many classrooms, it is the form of power that teachers use the most. If the kids like you, you can do a lot of things that you can't do if they don't like you. Okay. So that's the third form of freeing power. Now here's the fourth form, and I'm not seeing it in the literature. It's one that I've come up with. It's called ego power. And I'm sure, baby, you've stroked people's egos, haven't you?
Absolutely.
And does it work?
And yeah, I would say it does, yes.
Yeah. If you stroke people's egos, you say, you did such a beautiful job with this last time. How about helping me out this time? And they'll say, oh, okay, I'll help you out. So it's a freeing form of power. Now, there is also a negative ego stroke. That is the most powerful form of power. And in the book, I use Cassius Clay, who as a 4th grade student, his teacher told him, you'll never amount to anything, Cassius. When he won the gold glove at Cuba and the Olympics, guess who he visited the first day he came back to town?
That teacher.
Yeah. You told me I wouldn't amount to anything. Look at this. And he shows her the gold glove. So the negative ego stroke has to be used with someone with a strong ego. It can be misused. The misuse of the 9 forms of power are also described in chapter 4 of book 1. Okay. The next freeing form of power is what I call moral power. We talked about what rules do you expect me to enforce in this classroom? When the rules go up, moral power is in place because everybody knows what the rules are. When somebody breaks the rule, the teacher looks at the rules and says, somebody's breaking rule number 6. And everybody in the classroom looks at the kid who's breaking rule number 6. And automatically that kid changes their behavior because they know the other kids have set the rules. And peer behavior in most classrooms is critical. The peer group controls the behavior. Now, in most cases, the peer group enforces bad behavior like they did when I was a kid. They waited for me to act out. If you change the rules the way we had in where I'm talking, where the kids set the rules, where the teacher tries to meet their expectations, you change the peer group because the peer group becomes the enforcer in the classroom. So, when I said to the kid who's acting up, how many of you think I should send this kid to the office? Thumbs up if you agree, thumbs down if you don't. If the thumbs go up, that kid is devastated because he or she knows the other kids don't like what he did. You know how many times I would have been sent to the office? If the teachers knew who I was, they knew I was acting out all the time. But anyway, so that's moral power. So you've got information, expertise, personality, ego, and moral power. Now, the key to being a successful leader is to use these freeing forms of power. When they don't work, you must go to the controlling forms. Because as a leader, you give control using those 5 forms of power, but you don't give it up. When they don't do what they're supposed to do, you take it back. So the controlling forms that most people use are position power. Teachers have position power, right? Parents have position power, right? With position power, you get the ability to give rewards, right?
Yep.
And you get the ability to punish.
Yep.
Okay. Those are 3 controlling forms of power. There's a 4th one that is Most people forget about it. It is the most important controlling form of power. I'll give you a scenario here. But let's suppose your wife says to one of the kids, will you just wait till BB comes home? I'm going to tell him what you did. Mm-hmm. Because even though you're a stepfather, you are a controlling force in that house, right?
Absolutely.
Okay. So you come home and your wife says, you know what so-and-so did this afternoon? And she explains it to you. And you look at her and you say, oh, I don't see what's so bad. I did that when I was a kid. I don't think that's so bad. Why don't we just let this slide? What happens to your wife's position power?
It gets weakened.
Yes, big time. When a teacher sends a kid to the office for discipline and the principal or assistant principal does not discipline the kid, the teacher's power is weakened. And it happens all the time.
So in that example, the teacher's power is weakened, but the principal's power is strengthened in the student's eyes, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. He gains strength. His connection with the students is heightened. Mm-hmm. Now, when you look at President Trump, his connection power with his voters is very strong. His connection power with Congress is still there. It's not that strong, but it's still there. When you look at President Obama's connection power, he had connection power with the media and with the voters. He did not have it with Congress. Matter of fact, he used his pen to do executive power. And he lost connection with Congress, but he just said, screw you guys. I got my pen. I'm going to do what I want to do. So that's connection power. It's a critical form of power, and it's very controlling. If you have connection power, you automatically get position, reward, and coercion power. If you lose connection power, you sometimes lose position, reward, and coercion power.
Okay, so I want to also, because I know you mentioned earlier, we could talk about, you have some recommendations that you would give for President Trump when conflicts arise. But I know there's a lot of conflict, and I know a lot of us are dealing with conflict on a daily basis. And our position and who we are is completely different than that of Donald Trump. So although we do want to learn of what you have to say about Donald Trump, I also want to know how best is it for us to deal with conflict?
Well, there are 5 basic styles. Okay.
Tell us those 5 basic styles, Dr. Cleet.
What was that?
Share with us those 5.
Okay.
Dr. Cleet.
Each one has a win or a lose setup. The conflict management style that Trump tends to use is called competitive. I win, you lose. That's with the news media and with the other 13 people who ran against him to be president. I win, you lose. And he played it perfectly and won. They lost. Whether the news media is going to lose or not, we don't know. But he uses the competitive style a lot. Now, in his book, The Art of the Deal, he also uses the win-win, which is called the collaborative style. You get people to work together so that each has a win-win. Now, given the current climate with Congress, the House, and the Senate, he has to go to compromise because there is no win-win. There is only lose-lose. Each side is going to have to give something up to get a DACA deal. The Democrats are not going to get what they want. The Republicans are not going to get what they want. But somewhere down the road, there has to be a deal, and it's going to be a compromise. And it's lose-lose because in compromise, everybody gives up something of what they want. Now, whether Trump's going to have to give up some of his wall, whether he's going to have to give up some of his immigration plans, I don't know. But there's got to be a compromise out there somewhere. Then when you get to the accommodation, which is I lose, you win. With conflict with foreign relations, President Obama used the accommodation style. He gave at the Paris Peace